Hi everyone, welcome to Brain on Fire, channel where we chill, talk. Things will go from light to heavy, funny to depressing. We're gonna be super open, super open. So prepare yourselves for that. Every video will be the same, but different vibe, different locations. Sometimes there will be a guest. Let's just get crazy with it, guys. Let's get absolutely nuts with it. For the first episode, I wanted to just be super chill so we can just chat a little bit and just sort of get this introduced here. So we're gonna do a puzzle. And again, other weeks it'll be something totally different in a totally different place that you have never seen me in before. But I love a good puzzle. It's one of my favorite ways to decompress and just put myself in a different world. Kind of like a movie, but even less thinking to a degree. Today's puzzle is banned books because, yeah, a lot of gems on this list here. The Diary of Anne Frank is a banned book. Huckleberry Finn, this band, Catcher in the Rye, Of Mice and Men. I mean, so many books that like shaped my entire growing up experience. And there's so many other books on here too that I've heard of but haven't read personally, but I have dear friends who've read them and have also shaped their growing up experiences. Anyways, I digress. That's not what this is about. How do you guys do your puzzles? I like to go corners first. I feel like it's kind of serial killery to not go edges and corners first and then build kind of from the outside in. Obviously you can change that up as you get the edges established, but any other choice to me, I feel like you're just, I don't know, your egos really kick in at that point. You just really want to be different. You really want to be different and set yourself apart from the rest. And that's fine. You know, some people do things without instructions. I'll admit, when I put something together, like say it's an IKEA furniture or something like that, one of the first things I do is kind of toss the instructions aside. And I know that's not the right move. It just adds more time to the process. But it's a puzzle though. A puzzle, you don't really worry about the time constraints or anything like that. This is not great. Club soda and tequila. Figured I'd try something different. Might be an acquired taste thing. I think it's mostly the club soda part. I think club soda in general is an acquired taste. I feel like your body, especially if you're used to soda regular, your body's just wondering like, hey, where's the flavor? So I was recently, a few months ago, diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And I guess I'll you know, in some of these episodes we'll talk more in depth about it. I guess I'll lightly touch on sort of that process here in this episode and some of its consequences and whatnot. But like I said, we'll get deeper into stories and whatnot in later episodes. But I felt like, I don't know how else to put this. I feel like there's only one real way to put this because it was the real feeling. I felt like I was losing my mind for a while, for a long time. And I don't know how to explain that. I would just be driving and I would just start crying. And I was just like, oh man, I'm really depressed. And that's definitely a big part of it. But it was debilitating, especially not having an answer and not understanding what was going on with me. So I went to see a psychologist because I just wanted to know if there was something wrong with me. And after some very extensive talks and sorting out and diagnosing, it turns out I have bipolar disorder, and I have lived with it for a very long time without knowing that I have been living with it. And when I tell you that, first of all, I was shocked, complete shock to my system. I didn't think for a second about bipolar disorder. I don't spend any time in my life thinking about bipolar disorder. It's one of those things that you hear it and you're just like, oh, crazy, right? Because it's often used as kind of a slur when someone's acting a bit, out of touch or out of body. You know, in the movies or TV shows or whatever, how a doctor tells somebody life-altering news and then the person just goes really blurry and fuzzy, and then all the sound that's actually happening gets faded out and all you hear is like the person's most intense thoughts with like a buzzing sound or something. That's exactly what happened. That's such a real thing. That depiction that they do in movies and TV shows is spot on, because that's exactly what happened to me sitting in that psychologist's office. He was talking about bipolar disorder and why I have it and just telling me about it. And it had to have been several minutes that passed where I was just in that blurry, zoned out phase. So after the blurry zoned out phase, I just started crying, like absolutely losing my shit, crying right there. And then that's not what I wanted to do, certainly. This man that I've known for just a couple of hours at this point, and it just started all coming out. And I didn't even really know what I was crying about. And and I say that because after I recovered, and we talk some more about bipolar disorder and why I have it and the effects that it has on me and how I can improve my day-to-day life and functionalities. I went back into that blurry zone once I found out some more information about the disorder, because I started thinking about specifically how it's affected my life in all the negative ways, and my relationships and my professional life, and then I just started crying again, like profusely, like way worse than the first time. And this is just an experience that I'll never forget, and I want to shout out doctors for the patience. I also preach feeling vulnerable and allowing yourself to feel vulnerable and going against the conditioning of not feeling like you're able to cry. And I realized also, this is after the fact, and this is kind of a side point, that I don't practice what I preach enough. Like, yeah, I allow myself to be pretty vulnerable, and I cry when things make me cry in front of all you guys for other forms of content, but in my own personal life, I don't allow myself the grace and the space emotionally to just really let myself go and let whatever emotion is actually taking over me. I feel like I oftentimes am putting up an immediate guard, and I just want anyone watching this now, like, just let it go, let it happen. Don't fight those emotions, because they'll come back at you and they'll work themselves out in some other way. So yeah, anyways, I'm bipolar. Bipolar does not mean crazy, especially as someone that has it and that just, you know, very foolishly went to that frame of mind every time or anytime someone would even mention it. The other part too is that, you know, having attempted to research, there's not that many materials on bipolar disorder, which is something that I found out now that I have it, and I've been trying to find as many materials as I can. If I'm lucky, if I find one book at any library. So yeah, I mean, to put it simply, lows, highs. The lows are drastic, the highs are drastic. There's manic phases. There's a lot of symptoms to those phases. There's several symptoms that last days at a time. Like I said, there's specific stories I want to share about each symptom and the phase, how it's particularly affected certain parts of life, and we'll get deep with it, but I'm going to save that for future episodes because I just want to not pile on, no pun intended, because this puzzle is really piling on right now. It's just nice when something is wrong with you. It's nice to get answers, and it's nice to know what work that you have to do on yourself. I've got medication, and I've got the information, and I know what I need to do. I know the work that needs to be done, and that's all I can do now. It's really up to me at this point. If anyone else is bipolar, please share. The one thing I'll say that's not a specific story, but it's a consequence of having the disorder, is it's so hard to make content. You know, it comes in waves, and then there's the waves where I can make content, but then there's larger waves where I just can't, and it is like carrying an anvil on my back. I can't explain just how absolutely debilitatingly exhausting it is. I don't even know if that was a word that I just said, but you guys get the point. I think it's important, though, when you have a platform, I think it's important to do your best to make yourself available, because if your words affect even one person, even if it's one person, if your words affect that one person in a positive way, in a way that reshapes their frame of mind and reshapes their view on their own life, and can somehow, some way make their life better, then it's worth it. It's worth every single second. Or even if you're just making someone's shit day better, because there's so many shit days to be had out here. By the way, I've got Brain on Fire merch. It's right here. See the logo on the shirt. I've got hoodies too, different colors and such. I promise you it's in the works. Most likely by the time the second video is up, these will be up for anybody that wants to grab one, or 2 or 3 or 50. Maybe you're feeling real impulsive. I'm gonna have to cut out so much dead time of me just putting a puzzle together, but I don't care. I cannot finish this puzzle, you know? There's gonna be some videos where it's Legos. There's gonna be other videos where it's cooking. My goodness, those would be disasters. Like I said earlier, I've got a whole list of guests that I can't wait to get on here. I've got story times just lined up and ready to go, the type of stuff that I haven't been able to talk about before because it just didn't call for these types of stories. But we are going to tell these stories. They're going to be juicy and It'll be me like you've never seen before, guys. Oh no, 2 pieces came put together already. They came put together in a 1,000-piece puzzle. That means that I'm gonna feel that much less accomplished when I finish this whole thing. I'm not taking those pieces apart. You know how you complain about something, but like you're low-key glad that it happened, but you complain because it makes you sound like a better person? Yeah, I think that's just what just happened there. Okay, what's worse? Half of this is kind of guy specific, but it's still relevant in the grand scheme of the world that we all humans inhabit together. I went to the gym recently and it was very empty. I typically only go to the gym at hours that it will be most empty because anxiety. I was on the treadmill. There's a lot of treadmills. If I had to guess, at the top of my head, it's a Planet Fitness. I go very late, like middle of the night if I can, or as late as possible. And the amount of treadmills that exist, probably about, I'd say 30 to 35-ish. I was the only one using a treadmill, the only person that was using one. And just my peripheral vision, that's all I had at my dispense as I'm running, sweating up a storm, completely discombobulated. Someone comes up to the treadmill right next to mine, and I notice about 5 seconds before they're on the actual treadmill, because again, peripheral vision and awareness, and they're approaching the treadmill and they get on the treadmill, and the entire time I am just completely melting in anxiety and irritability of there's no fucking way you're about to use the treadmill directly next to mine. This is not going to actually happen, right? And they were wearing like a workout outfit, so I was completely convinced they were going to do that, but they just ended up wiping it down. I think it was an employee that just decided not to wear the usual Planet Fitness gear that day. I don't know. When I tell you the anxiety and just irritation that came over my entire body. Also, why was I so mad? Why is it that serious? Why are we wired this way? What if they just wanted to soak up some of my energy? What if they're the kind of person that can't get their workout in unless they have somebody who's also working out mere inches away from them? Who am I to really judge them for that? Right? They just want to better their lives. They just want to get in better shape. Anyways, that didn't end up happening, obviously, but it made me think of another situation that's similar, and it is another nightmare. Men's restrooms. First of all, men's restrooms with the urinals that don't have the dividers in between the urinals. Worst lack of creation I can possibly think of off the top of my head. Just put the dividers between the urinals. It's not that hard. But it made me think, what would be worse? The situation with the treadmill where someone was using the one directly next to you in a room full of empty treadmills, or somebody using the urinal directly next to you in a bathroom with several urinals. I think that's a deep philosophical question for everybody to really think upon, and I think it just depends on the other person's intent, I guess, but that doesn't account for the person that's really suffering, and that's the one who was there first. This is really terrible. This is like a really terrible thing, I think anyway. My 5th grade teacher, I'm far removed enough from 5th grade, I think, to talk about this publicly. My 5th grade teacher, I'm not going to say her name, she was actually lovely. Aside from this general ideology, my 5th grade teacher used to divide our tables, and this is real, divide our tables by smartness. There was tables 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. It was 1 through 5, and I don't remember if it was 1 versus 5, but let's say it's 1. The smartest people would sit at 1, the second smartest people would sit at 2, third at 3, fourth, and then the least smartest people would sit at 5. And this was during the entire school year, and if you did better, I guess, or got smarter, or whatever way she justified it, you would move up a table, or vice versa. You would move down a table. There was about 7 kids at each table. I think it's important to note, whether it's from my ego or not, that I did always sit at the smartest table. I never got moved down at any point, but I always felt bad. I actually think that was where I really learned empathy. It was in 5th grade. I think that really formed my empathetic drive, because I always felt bad for the people that were in table 5 and even 4, and I had most of my friends were often at those tables. It's just like, a terrible thing to do to somebody publicly for an entire school year. It's also something you could get away with back in the day versus now. It also always feels so weird to say and use the term back in the day. Like, I don't feel like I'm old enough to really say back in the day, but I also feel like I'm right on the cusp of being able to use the term back in the day. That's something internal that I have to deal with. Oh, happy Mother's Day. This video is going to go up pretty damn close to Mother's Day, if not on Mother's Day. And any mothers watching this, happy Mother's Day. I wore this shirt for you guys. Happy Mother's Day. I wore this shirt as opposed to my merch just for you guys. So you wonderful women that drive the face of the earth, you superior human beings. If you want to get a belated Mother's Day gift for that mother in your life, this is it right here. It's going to be on sale soon enough. Yeah, happy Mother's Day to everyone, except like Casey Anthony and people like that. You ever wonder who the first person to come was? I think about that all the time. Like, was it an accident? What was the response? We're really lucky to live in a world of cameras all the time. I want footage of the early days so bad. Please don't send Bibles to my P.O. box. You guys ever wonder about how Winnie the Pooh's the best animated character to ever exist in the history of animated characters? Doesn't judge anyone, is always just in a happy-go-lucky mood, is so chill and so non-judgmental and just unbothered all the time, and just wants to eat sweets. Is there any other cartoon character that's that unproblematic and then just that down to have a hang at all times? Also, Pooh's voice, just so soothing. Such a soothing experience to listen to Pooh talk for any amount of time. Also, you ever notice how in the 100 Acre Woods, they all gather around Pooh all the time? Pooh's just the center of the universe despite being sort of a natural introvert. That's how you know, man, when you get an introvert that people center around, it's a real one usually. You know how some things are so dumb and blow your mind so much that they're even happening that you don't research them just because of how mind-blowing it is that it's even happening in this world, that it even exists? Banned books is something that I haven't even looked into. I've never looked into why these books are banned or why any book is banned, because it blows my fucking mind to such an extreme that it's happened and that it continues to happen. They banned a book called Two Boys Kissing. Now, I've never read that book. It's by David Levithan. Shout out to David Levithan. Two Boys Kissing. Now, what could be that harmful in that book? And I bet you could still grab a Captain Underpants book, no problem. I bet you could check that out for as long as you wanted to. I think boys should kiss more. I think that should be a part of the curriculum when you're growing up. How are you supposed to know what you like or don't like unless you try it? And most people go their whole lives without getting to try the things that they actually like. They don't even know. I get to think of so many boys I would have been down to kiss in school.